like a motorboat.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of What's So Funny, the show that probes the minds, the brains, and the psyches of the people who make the funny. Our guest tonight grew up in Seattle, but made only his second trip to Vancouver and his first professionally when he headlined the Comedy Mix a couple weeks ago. We sat down at the Burrard Street Club and talked about being a portly child that grew up to be so studly he got to motorboat Sandra Bullock in the movie The Heat. He must have learned that method in theater school, I'm guessing. Before we get to our conversation, allow me a plug. On November 22nd, Co-op Radio, which you're listening to right now, is hosting a fundraiser at Pat's Pub down at the Patricia Hotel a few blocks away. I've assembled an all-star cast of comics, all former guests of this very program. For under $12, you'll not only be helping the station stay afloat, but you'll get a fantastic night of comedy featuring 6 of the country's top performers. We've got, get a load of this lineup, Graham Clark, Ivan Decker, Erica Sigurdsson, Charlie Demers, Dino Archie, and Shirley Nome. We've also got the licorice stick of James Dandifer and the guitar of Eric Cottrell, which you hear at the end of this program every single episode. Tickets are available at eventbrite.ca or at the door. They're $12 at the door. A little cheaper if you get them on Eventbrite. Plus, you'll be entered into a draw to win, passes to comedy clubs, things like that. Read all about it on the What's So Funny blog, available now online, as all good blogs are. It's going to be a good one. Okay, you ready for my talk with actor-comedian Adam Ray? I don't think I said his name in the introduction. Yeah, Adam Ray is our guest tonight. I hope you're ready because here it comes. How you doing, Adam?
Great.
Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you,
Make yourself
man.
at home.
Thank
here.
you, yeah.
Put your feet up.
It's nice to be here when there's nobody here.
Yeah. You don't
Hopefully
want that
that's
at
not the case
showtime.
tonight.
Yeah,
No, you don't.
That's right.
It's been nice, though. I think this club's has enough of a reputation that people come out, seems like.
Definitely.
Regardless of the act, hopefully.
Well, that's true. You can come here on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and it can be packed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's your first time here.
First time to Vancouver. Actually, you know what? The first time I was talking to my mom, and I think I came here because I'm from Seattle, and so we came up here. She told me we came up here for my sister and my mom and I came up here for a little weekend. We went to like an aquarium, I think. And then when we got back, my sister decided to, my sister was going through some issues as a adolescent female. And she decided to, with her boyfriend at the time, I think she was about to be a freshman in high school, took my mom's van and packed up all my clothes and stole some money from my mom and just took off to Arizona was her plan with her boyfriend.
Wow.
Like that. My mom was like, yeah. Remember we went to Vancouver and then your sister came back and stole the car and all your shit and was going to try to start a new life somewhere.
And how far did she get?
She got to about Oregon, like Portland, and then the cops caught up. I think they ran out of gas and money.
Because?
I think the $60 and the that she had stolen from me was not enough to get her to Arizona. But I'm surprised they didn't try to sell my clothes. I had some pretty cool, it's like some old Patrick Ewing basketball shoes and, which probably could have gotten at least $11 for. And then what else did I have she could have gotten some cash for? I don't know, maybe an old Alonzo Mourning jersey, some Sonic starter jackets.
Freshman, now we don't use that, but that's like grade 9, and so that would be 13? 14?
No, that's like 8th grade. 13, 14 is 8th grade. I'd say about 15.
Yeah.
I was older
young,
for my group, my class, so I think I was 16 when I was a freshman in high school. I think so, maybe 15 at the end of 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then she took off. And how's she doing now?
She's great now.
Yeah?
Yeah, she works at an emergency vet clinic, and she's got two amazing daughters. They're my nieces. They're twin girls, and they're 4.
And they're going to give her hell like she gave her.
Oh
mom.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're handfuls. She texted me the other day that one of them was she was like, "Hey, you got to put your pants on," and she was like, "I think you just need to be patient, Mom," is what she said back to her. So they're already little bitches, but they provided a lot of material for me, and along with just a lot of joy. But
Are
the material was
they
great.
in Seattle?
They are.
Right, and you're in LA.
Yeah, I've been in LA for it'll almost be 13 years.
13 years.
But 4 of those were for school, and then the other.
Where'd you go?
I went to USC.
Trojans.
Uh-huh.
And what'd you study?
I studied. I was in the acting school there, and
It's all making sense.
Yeah.
Now you're getting some acting roles.
Correct.
Right? Now, were you one of these guys who got up on stage to do stand-up because you needed to be seen or to get into acting more?
You graduate from acting school with a theater resume, and it's not all that appealing to. You walk into like a CSI casting office, and you're like, "Hey, I was in a play called Vinegar Tom." They're like, "Who gives a shit, man? That doesn't really apply here." And so it was. The training experience was great, but then you graduate and you need more going on than just, especially to keep yourself busy while you're trying to build something out of nothing. You have no resume, you have no reel, and you just got to start. And they don't really. A lot of acting schools don't prep you too much for the business side. They had a few people come in and speak to us at the end of our college experience and about how you just got to work, get a job at a casting office or, just whatever. They don't tell you about, I got really involved in doing a lot of web videos and was doing some exclusive stuff for Funny or Die and for National Lampoon. And then I just started doing stand-up because I was like, I got to be doing other shit to keep busy while I'm not getting these auditions that I want to be getting. And yeah, it is an extra way to be seen, but you can't be having that be your goal in the first handful of years because you don't want people to see you. But that's a tough thing about LA is there's so many actors trying to do stand-up or people that just think, oh, I've been doing it a year, now I'm ready to get on a showcase or whatever, because they think that that's enough of a grind because they don't realize what it really takes. And I was the same way. I think about 2 or 3 years in, I was very impatient about what I wasn't getting, and then it took a couple...
In stand-up?
Yeah, totally. And it took a couple older comics who had had about 10, 15 years on me to take the time to actually be like, dude, just keep writing, get better, and that stuff happens when it's supposed to happen. Like, you can't control it, and you don't want to be seen before you're ready. And
that's nice. I mean, you had that relationship with them, obviously. Otherwise, they would have just ignored you and said,
"Yeah, totally, yeah."
Find out on your own. But who were they?
This comedian named Brett Ernst and Bobby Lee, who I opened for about 3 years. Just great dudes, and yeah, so they kind of gave me that. Really was a moment of clarity for me as far as being like, all right, well, I just need to keep doing my shit, and things will, and then but stand up has now become such a big part of my life, and it's definitely opened some doors, and it just helps on all aspects of life. I mean, it makes you more comfortable in auditions and your relationship with people when you go into a room, and it makes me more comfortable in all areas.
More confident?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have to kind of fake it a bit when you're on stage, no matter how nervous you are.
Sure.
Especially at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing plays since I was in 5th grade. I think that's actually another reason I think why I started doing stand-up was like I needed the live fix because theater I'd been doing all through high school and college, and then when I graduated and I wasn't doing any plays. I did maybe one play after college, but then it was like I needed that live fix because I loved, even though the relationship with the audience is different when you're doing stand-up versus doing a play, but you're still having them there and just knowing that something, I don't know, necessarily you're hoping for something to go wrong, but I just like being in the room and having a live audience. It's just, it's a great rush. So stand-up was, I guess, my live fix, and then it just becomes like a drug after a while. And, I'm going home tomorrow, and I have 3 shows tomorrow night, and I'm bad at not taking like a night off because I was scraping for, a couple spots a week for the first 3 or 4 years, and now that I'm a regular at all the LA clubs and my name's gotten out. Yeah, I'm in like the working community of comics to where I can get up a decent amount a week and sometimes 2-3 times a night. So I always try to do that because I always remind myself how awful it was when I was barely getting one or trying to get into those main clubs. it's a really bummer of a time. You know, I have buddies who are young comics now that, again, like the impatience is just one thing you can't really plan on, but you want to be so much better than you are when you start out, and I don't envy their
So you're
situation.
doing little rooms and bars.
No,
that
I don't
aren't
do
the main
bars anymore.
clubs?
No.
But when you were starting out, because you couldn't get into the main clubs.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So, because you have
anywhere.
to develop your material somewhere.
Anywhere. I mean, I'd go up anywhere, and I.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Where was the worst?
Oh man. I mean, I guess all the bar shows were always just because some of the places more often than not they were just not conducive for comedy. They would still have TVs on or music
with
playing
the game on,
or it's just like where you were background noise, and there'd be a handful of people, and I just got good at focusing on the people who were paying attention. You can't think about the other stuff that's going on. You just have to try to play because you have to get something out of it for yourself. And there was one bar show that was maybe 20 people, but they were in, clumps around the room, and none of them were really paying attention to any of the show, but they were all there for it. They were all sitting and kind of in and out. And so it just kind of really, I think that was probably the first time I really took crowd work as something that I needed to have in my arsenal, because I wanted their attention so bad, and I was so frustrated that I started kind of just talking to them to get them to pay attention, and that forced me to have to, listen and come up with stuff. And I think when you're doing crowd work, when you start out, at least for me, I was so focused on being funny that I wasn't listening. And that's really 98% of it is, listening and then trusting yourself that you're funny enough to come up with something in that moment, but not in my head. I would say something, and then I wouldn't pay attention to what they were responding with. I'd just be like, quick, you got what can you say that's funny, right? Even if it doesn't make sense or it's personal or it's kind of mean, but when you actually listen.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed that. I saw Todd Barry's crowd work tour here a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. He just listened. That was the key that I took away.
Oh, yeah.
He really listened to the person, and then the funny came naturally from that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Harlan Williams is a good buddy of mine, and he's, to me, is one of the best, because he's just, not only is he so rapid fire quick, but he really just he'll work a moment until he gets what he needs, and it's that's I've definitely tried to
What's that little
apply
buddy?
that. Yeah, for sure. All his nicknames for people.
Good Canadian kid.
Yeah, that's right.
I know some of your favorites are Canadians. I've been reading about you, Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, Alanis Morissette. She's not a comedian, but she's definitely one of my favorite singers.
Oh, is she?
She's incredible. Yeah,
I think her brother lives in town.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Is he a singer too?
Yes, he is.
I feel like you kind of have to be. I'm sure that whole family is it's full of musical talent.
Talent, yeah. When I saw that Dan Aykroyd was one of your influences, it was interesting.
Wait, Dan Aykroyd, where was that on?
Are you denying this?
Well, I mean, John Belushi, I think more than... I think that...
You said Dan Aykroyd.
Where?
It was in an interview online, 2007.
Wow.
Yeah. And you said how, because even if he goes sort of broad, he is still rooted in reality.
Oh, totally. Yeah. On SNL, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Okay. But because you mentioned Jim Henson and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was in 2007,
I think so, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean,
Dan
the first, I think, really taste of comedy I remember seeing before In Living Color was a big influence on me, but I think some of the stuff my dad showed me was Best of John Belushi from Saturday Night Live, and then I would watch...
Because you're a little younger than to have been able to see that at the time.
Yeah, I don't think I watched I remember watching a few episodes of the show, later on VHS, but I really am drawn to people that... And same with on Living Color, like a lot of those guys were just such good actors that their characters, you could tell were, pretty outrageous. But I bought them as real people. You suspend your disbelief a little bit, but like Fire Marshal Bill, obviously, like Jim Carrey, that's,
Another Canadian.
Yeah, not not a guy you think you would actually exist, but he makes him believable to. Yeah, it's just so good. I mean, but all that sketch comedy stuff is really, and Eddie Murphy, Delirious was the first stand-up I saw that made me think that this would be fun to do.
When did you start stand-up?
2007.
Oh, right when that interview. So, right in that year, you were being interviewed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that was for.
I don't know either.
Oh, I was doing a lot of web stuff, so I think that's what my name was getting a little bit of Traction was from when MySpace was still big.
A little bit of what? Trashing?
Traction.
Oh, traction.
Yeah.
I thought you said it was trashing. They were trashing you.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend from the 5th grade came out and said I was a shitty boyfriend. No, I started to do a bunch of, all those web videos on MySpace when it was big, and I would get a lot of stuff featured on the front page, and so when that actually mattered, and so I don't know what that interview was. It was probably some website that doesn't exist anymore. It was probably like fucking Quiznos.com or something. I don't know.
I don't know, but I found it.
Okay, wow.
I found it.
The internet's good for that. And you know what? As we progress here, there's going to be more and more stuff out there that pops up that you don't remember doing that will, either be beneficial or career altering.
Right. So you studied acting.
Yes.
And what was the last play you did?
It was a play called Sophistry, and it was about these college kids that graduated and were kind of in that middle ground limbo stage of trying to make something of themselves. And it was like these 3 girls and 3 guys, and they were all buddies. And I was the lead with this other girl, and we kind of had this rocky relationship. And then I had these 2 buddies, and one of them was like closeted gay, and he ends up coming on to me. And then I'm with this girl who accuses me of rape. It was just like, fuck, it was intense. But it was like there was a lot of funny elements to it too. It was really it was pretty fun though.
This was in college?
Yeah, well, this was the year. This was my senior year of college. Yeah, that was the last play I did.
So I guess as you graduate, you have 2 roads to go down: Hollywood or New York to try to be a stage actor.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of great theater in LA, but yeah, they're just it's not as prevalent as New York. I think New York's got the lockdown on it. There's a lot more smaller theaters and stages in New York to put stuff up in.
Do you miss it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would love to. It's just it takes a lot of time, and there's just not. You can't really make a great I mean, if I'm going to be doing, I would not want to give up stand up to do theater right now, because this is kind of how I'm making my money, and. But
that's right. I would imagine and correct me if I'm wrong.
Because a play can be 3, 4, 5 months, if not longer, and I just that type
of rehearsal, or even
well, I mean, I say like 3, 4 months rehearsal, yeah, and then the play depends. Like,
and if it's a small theater, it's not going to be a huge amount of money.
Sure, and and I also just have put in a lot of time with the film and TV world at this point, as far as auditioning a lot and building a lot of relationships with the cast. A lot of it is just building fans in the casting community, and now I'm on the short list for a lot of these casting people who know me, because it's you're trying to introduce yourself to a lot of these people, show them that you're legit, and you just basically have to deliver and kill every time when you auditions, be consistent, and then so that they go, oh, he's great, cool, I'm going to keep, every time he's right for something that I'm doing, I'm going to bring him in. And you just want to build these fans so that you have a collection of people that are always bringing you in, so that your opportunities are high, and then there's just all the other stuff that's out of your control, the look, or that they don't want a big name, or hoping that the timing works out, that you're what they're looking for. I mean, even when I went in for the Heat, I went in. It was like the 3rd time I went in, and I felt great on all the parts I did. And this woman, Allison Jones, who's cast The Office and Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Knocked Up and 40-Year-Old Virgin, just a lot of big comedies, and I went in for it and came out, and I felt great, and I was like, oh, this is another one that I'm not going to get, because it's Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. Like, they'll for sure, this part's great. They'll for sure want to get some. And I had a couple of buddies who were even on shows that went in for it, and I assumed they would want to have somebody who had a little bit of traction and some following. But shit, man, I just got lucky that it went my way, and that's.
What was that like when they told you? Like, surreal?
Yeah. I mean, I was doing some voiceover job where I was narrating some like BBC documentary about like the chemicals and some of these bombs that they use in Iraq, and how like it was fucking really depressing. And and then my buddy, who's actually Allison Jones' casting like assistant, texted me and said, "You're going to get some good news soon." And so, but even then, I don't, you don't trust anything until it's real. And even then, when they called and said I got it, I was very excited. But until I like was out there shooting it, and then like, and then got back and saw it and saw that I wasn't cut. Like, there's a very, because I've had a lot of things happen and then not happen, or be promised and not follow through. I mean,
You invite your whole family to the premiere and you're not there.
oh, sure. Or yeah, or your lines your voice is dubbed over with like a British actor, or they've superimposed, Morgan Freeman over your face.
How does that affect your psyche? Like at some point you just have to accept it and go, oh, okay, I get it. That's the game.
Yeah. No,
and I got paid and that's great.
Yeah, you have, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of justifying with that's the business, I feel like you say. And I mean, shit, I lost out on 3 jobs in the last 2 weeks that were all pretty awesome parts. One was a lead in an IFC show and a couple guest stars on another couple shows. And yeah, I mean, it takes its toll after a while, but you just have to, that's why it's great to have stand-up. And, I have this podcast with my buddy Brad Williams. He's a dwarf comedian, hilarious. It's called About Last Night. You can get it on iTunes and Stitcher and or aboutlastnightpodcast.com. But having that stuff is key to not lose your mind when you don't get, But I mean,
you have so many irons in the fire. You have the voiceover work, acting, stand-up, podcast now.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're keeping busy.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just having an outlet to be creative is really kind of essential. And I don't like. I couldn't do just stand-up. I couldn't do just acting. You kind of, but at the same time, you kind of have to give your time and energy to kind of have it honed in on a few things, because if you're spread too thin on a lot of different things, you're not going to be great at all of them. But yeah, I mean, I want I want to be doing more acting, obviously. But yeah, you do have to remind yourself. You get conditioned to going, all right, well, this is it's a lot of timing, a lot of luck. But then what you can control is, like I was saying, being consistent and always doing the best, whatever it is you're bringing to what you're going in for. Bring the best version of what of what you are, and then the rest is kind of out of your hands. You just and it's really once you can adjust your mind to that. But it still sucks. I mean, like shit, you want some of these parts are so good, and that you know that you can kill it, but that's not enough. And you try to think other ways you can go maybe outside the box to let people know. So
one way is you made all these videos.
Yeah, having videos and stand up is helpful too, because a lot of these casting people, or Paul Feig and his assistant, some people from the movie, came out and saw me.
Director of The Heat.
Yeah. They came out and he directed The Heat and Bridesmaids and a ton of The Office and 30 Rock, and he's just a juggernaut. And having stand up is great to bring these people out to see you in another avenue and to get more of a sense of you and your voice. I mean, it's really that's just one of the great benefits of stand-up once you get to a point to where you want people to come see you. But again, like that's the problem. Being in LA and a young comic, you think you're ready a year in, even 5 months in. There's people that just, because you get tricked to you trick yourself into thinking that you're more ready than you are, because you want to be and sometimes you'll end up on a show or you'll host a weekend in an improv with a big name, and so you post on your Facebook, I'm opening for Dave Attell, and so in your head you're like shit, and people, oh my God, you're really doing it, and you could just you're making it, you're so big time. These people who are so separated from the business and shit. I mean, I remember I did a show at the Comedy Store once, and Chris Rock popped in and closed it out at the main room of the Comedy Store, and 45 minutes, had a big notepad up there, and I went on before him. And I remember I went home that night and posted, like, I opened for Chris Rock. And everyone was like, holy shit, man. And in my head, I was like, yeah, because you need that, like, validation at that point from outside sources to remind you that you should be doing this and that you're not wasting your time. There's very few victories in the stand-up business. Like, whether you getting into a festival or a late-night set or whatever, there's just a handful of those types of experiences that make you, which is weird, because you'd think that the day in and day out grind of having a good show is enough, but they just blend together after a while. But I really try to relish the good shows, and this club has been great, and like last night the shows were really fun, and so we are
here at the Comedy Mix, I should say.
Yeah.
And last night I did notice that you talked about earlier in your career when there's a handful of people in a bar and you play just to them. You forget all the other people that aren't paying attention.
Yeah,
and last night was a good example, because it was a kind of a chatty crowd from where I was sitting.
Were you in the first show or the second show?
I was in the first show. And it could have derailed, and you just sort of you would talk to them occasionally, but you just went ahead with your act and talked to those that were listening more than the
I think it's
random drunk people.
Totally. I have a problem sometimes doing that, of spending too much time on somebody that can be distracting, because I genuinely want to, like, if they're hammered, I don't want to obviously exchange any sort of dialogue with them. But yeah, I mean, you just try to, more often than not, I feel like if you ignore any sort of that chatter, that'll quiet down. But after a while, I do end up addressing it, because I like to handle it, because I feel like if the crowd sees you kind of handle something that's going on, that gives them even more confidence in you being up there, and they want to do is feel like they're in good hands with you, and that they trust you're in control. And the moment you kind of relinquish any of that, then they lose faith in you. And
it's fragile up there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gamble sometimes if you do engage in some crowd interaction and it doesn't go well, then so you just have to really, but you don't get better by not doing it. So you just, anytime there is an opportunity. And the second show, there was some actually pretty incredible exchanges with a kid who was kind of a pothead, and he had a great laugh, and he started doing he was doing double thumbs up towards me, and then he did one thumbs up at one point, and there's this whole thing we ended up getting into about the difference between two thumbs up. He was doing double thumbs up as he was laughing, and it was very positive and encouraging, and made me feel good. And then when I asked him something else, he just did one thumb, and he was very inaudible with his response. That I then said how it felt like he was putting a curse on me at that point, with just one thumb, and then and a bunch of babble and over laughter. So then it was just the whole difference between having someone give you two thumbs versus one thumb, and
right.
And but he was also a great sport. Like he would interact, but he wasn't doing it for him. He wasn't trying to have a moment. He was just, and those you're thankful for those crowd members, because he's unaware of how. He's not trying to be a part of the show. He's just like, he's locked into who he is in that moment, as far as like and he's listening like I am, like, and just responding, like, and he wasn't trying to make a joke. That's always the worst, or lie, because sometimes audience members panic when they get talked to, and they'll make up something for the sake of, because they think they gotta be funny, or they gotta help the show out, which is weird, because there's no, where they say don't turn off your phones and don't heckle, but it's like there's no protocol. People don't really know, like, hey, you don't have to try to be funny. If a comic does talk to you, just be honest. Yeah, there should be that kind of a
add that for tonight.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It would help sometimes.
But yeah, those little moments can be magical anyway, because it sets the shows apart too.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you develop something on thumbs for
for
another
sure.
show.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, there's that could go into this. There's another show I did where a guy walked in late to a show, and he kind of, I said, "What's up, man?" And he kind of like gave me a point, like, and he pointed at me like, "What's up, dude?" and like acknowledging me, and I was like, and then he got up though and left, like later on to the show, and he did the point again, like, "See you later, man." And he pointed at me, and before he left, I then just had to recognize the difference between when somebody approaches you with a point, like, and they're like, it's very inviting, like he was like acknowledging me and being like, "What's up? Good to see you." But as he was leaving, there's a whole different connotation to it, because as he was leaving and he pointed, it was almost like fucking like, I know I'm gonna come after you, motherfucker. Like, it was just as he was leaving and pointing versus entering the situation with a point. It was, I don't know, maybe there's something to.
But you didn't develop that. You're just saying that happened.
Yeah, but something about just gestures like that, and also, I don't know,
and your perceptions of them.
Yeah. Just there's certain also the double thumbs up, like. That and like raising the roof, like there's just certain gestures that you don't see anymore, and it does make me curious why. Got the instruments up here, right? Little high five to get things going, buddy. All right, that was fucking weird, man. What the fuck? What the fuck just happened? Was that your first high five? You seem very. You're like, what do I do? Stop talking to me, man. How high do I put it? Are you a little stoned right now, man? Cool. I smoke a little pot. You got to, right? Every now and then. I recently figured out pretty much everybody smokes pot when you think about it. I just found out my 15-year-old cousin smokes pot. What the fuck? 15-year-old wants to be an adult before he even grows up. I want to try to help curb the habit, discourage him from really turning it into something bad. So I told him I smoke a little. Didn't expect the reaction. His eyes got so big, like so excited. He was like, dude, Adam, dude, you smoke weed? Dude, how have we not smoked together yet? I was like, dude, how have we not smoked together yet? 5 years ago, you were 10. What the fuck are you talking about? You just started using deodorant, man. Take it easy. Plus, I have this rule. I can't smoke pot with anybody who didn't grow up watching DuckTales. That's just one of my rules about smoking weed. Yeah, that's a good rule. DuckTales. Yeah, they're the potheads. That's how you find them. Yeah, I knew you were in here. That's how you find them. The response on that DuckTales call is unbelievable. Like, look how quickly you all just dropped whatever was happening and just... You could be stabbing somebody in a Whole Foods parking lot, right? And just walk by the guy's like, these chicken apple sausages are too expensive. Just walk by, DuckTales, back to stabbing. Last thing here, get to travel a lot to do stand-up, which is definitely one of the perks. I was in Virginia a few weeks ago. Great city, a lot of interesting people. I was trying to find a grocery store, right, to get some food. So I asked one of the local dudes on the street, hey man, where's your like popular supermarket?
And the guy goes, well, we've got Harris Teeter's, or there's Food Lion.
And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, did you say Food Lion or Food Lion?
And he goes, I'm sorry, my bad. Food Lion, you know, like, rear.
And I thought that was awesome for a couple reasons. One, this guy thought that I didn't know what a fucking lion sounds like. That's depressing. And two, this guy apparently thinks lions go, rear! And all I could think was, God, I would love to hear this dude be the voice of like those children's animal sound toys. You know, where you pull the string and it'd be like, a bear goes,
oh God, I gotta really go for some honey right now. Oh my God, how good does that sound?
When you talked about your look and auditioning,
yeah,
do you always get the same parts or go out for the same parts?
Yeah, I mean, I go out for the, there's like romantic lead type guys, or I'll go out for the fratty guy, or the cocky asshole guy, or the,
yeah, I see that one.
Yeah, yeah. And, but I mean, shit, I feel like I can kind of, adapt to whatever. I mean, or, doctors or cops or computer nerd guys. I mean, if they want the look to kind of be a little, what my look presents. But, yeah.
I was going to say that all actors, I'm sure, think, I could handle any of it.
Sure.
But it's them. It's the people doing the hiring going, no, accountants don't look like that.
Yeah,
yes, they do. In real life, they look like anything.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
and you want to think you can do it all. And I'm very aware of what my strengths and weaknesses are, but and I'm just starting to go in for more dramas, which is great because I really want to do more of that. But it's tough when your resume is full of comedy. People don't see you for that stuff. But
that's right. They didn't see The Sophist.
Yeah, and so I put. I've been putting a lot of auditions on tape for stuff, and that's been helpful in getting a good response. And I just want to act. I'm not too picky right now, but you have to be a little bit. Like I don't want to be, I don't want to do some really hokey guest star on a Tyler Perry show or something. But you want to stack that resume up of work. When you're working, people recognize that you're working, and they see that other people are taking a chance on you. So
work breeds work.
Yeah, I think so.
What was your role? I haven't seen The Heat.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the trailer for it, though,
yeah.
And I have a thing for Sandra Bullock.
She's incredible. I got to motorboat her.
Excuse me?
Yeah. You got to check the movie out. You got to check it out.
I'm going to.
It's out on DVD now.
I'm going to. I saw it on my Apple TV today.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So what did you get to do to her?
Well, so I play a nightclub owner. That I'm a part of this drug lord they're trying to bust. And so they first meet me at this big nightclub that I own, and I'm dancing with all these girls on the dance floor, and they're trying to bug my phone. So Melissa cuts up Sandra's clothes in the bathroom to make her more sexually attractive, because what she's wearing is a very FBI.
She's kind of by the books.
Yeah, totally.
And Melissa McCarthy is a crazy.
Yeah,
FBI
just a very brash Boston cop and curses a lot and just does things her way.
Yeah.
And they have great chemistry. It was a pretty awesome mix. And so they're trying to bug my phone on the dance floor, and there's a lot of dancing, and they pull these girls off of me, and so that eventually Sandra's just up on me, grinding on me, and we dance for a little bit. We do a bunch of crazy motions and rubbing each other's hair. And then at one point she just grabs my face and shoves it down into her cleavage, and that was not planned. And that was
not much cleavage. Yeah,
pretty incredible moment. No, she's doing just fine there.
Yeah, is she?
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
killing it.
I like her a lot, and she seems like she has a great sense of humor.
She's the coolest. She's one of the coolest people I've ever met. A very attractive physically, but just because of how down to earth she is and so welcoming. I mean, all my scenes were with them, so I would sit with Melissa and Sandra when we were not shooting, and the first day or so trying to feel it out how much I should really converse with them. And by the second day, I mean, we were just all chumming it up the whole time, and it got comfortable. And they made it comfortable for me to just be myself. And but also I had to feel it out to how engaging they would be. If they were just those types of actors that were like, hey, when I'm not working, I just like to keep to myself, then you pick up on that. But I didn't want to sit there and not talk to them because I was like, when am I going to be able to hang out with them again?
It's another interesting part of acting, too, is you may be really talented, but if you don't get along on set.
Oh, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Well, now, and that's why I think that carried over. We had a great time, and now I keep in touch with both of them. And Melissa invited me to her birthday party a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't go because I was on the road. And Sandra is having these little get-togethers every now and then, and so I'll go hang out with her and some friends. And
is she? Did she find love finally?
I don't know, man. I don't really pry into.
Well, is she with somebody?
I don't know, man.
You don't know.
Yeah, I don't. She's got a pretty,
I hope so.
She's got a kid who's the shit, and I think that's keeping her pretty well busy. But
that's good.
I don't know. I just
because she's very down to earth, and then she hooked up with that guy, and I thought, what are you doing, Sandra?
Yeah, so
and
many people were so concerned. Yeah,
of course it ended badly.
I don't know. She's whoever gets to be around her will be pretty lucky because she's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But it's that's you're right though. You just you get along with people, and you hope that translates into another job. And Paul,
you be professional.
Yeah. And Paul told me he'd keep plugging me in his stuff, and whether it happens or not will remain to be seen. But we had a really good time, and I think I showed. We got to improvise a lot, which and so that was nice to show him that I could do that. And so I don't know how much of that stuff is going to be in the extras on the DVD. But Melissa and I, there were scenes where we would just go back and forth for a while. He just let us go. Or when I was hitting on Sandra in the VIP booth of my club, he really just let me go off on a lot of crazy tangents.
Nice. Well, that's another thing that. You do stand-up, but I read that you did some improv with UCB.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done that, in high school and did Groundlings for a year.
Of course, you're a theater student. You're going to do improv.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not every... I mean, yeah, I just... also, too, and just like, being a... I think I've always kind of been the funny kid in elementary school and stuff, so just like I've been... more or less improvising my whole life because like when you're trying to make your friends laugh, like you're just always, it's not like I would come in with prepared material at school to make them laugh. You're riffing off of what, and I was also fortunate to have friends that made me laugh that would also not just, they were a great audience for me, but they would, in situations to where we would all play off each other. And I'm constantly telling people that. And one of my best friends from Seattle, who's a engineer, and he's the guy who actually, in that joke I do about the iPhone and pressing it on the door to open it when he's drunk, that's him. And I attribute a lot of my, not like I'm where I am because of him, but like him and I have just been best friends since like, 6th grade, and so many, just, every time we hang out, we have we're just always just improvising more or less because we're just riffing on all sorts of shit, and we have a lot of common interests in sports and whatever, and but we're just always having a good time, and it's always.
And he's not a performer.
No, he's not, but he's at all.
But that's just life is improv.
Yeah. Totally. But but he's also having somebody like that that's always in a good mood, and that when we're around each other, we're always, just joking and coming up with stuff, and whatever our situation is. Like he's somebody that you can put in any surrounding, whether it's you're on an island with nothing around you, or we're at a Chuck E. Cheese, and there's a lot of chaotic situations. We can pull stuff from whatever's around us and entertain ourselves, and that's shit. You don't recognize it until you get older. That like having friends in your life that And we get to a point. There's, if he had chosen to jump into this career, I have no doubts that he would have, could do it. Like, but he's also super smart, and he's making a lot of money. He works a lot, but you just get to a point where it's like you choose, I'm going to try it or not. And I think a lot of people, want to. I don't know if he's playing it safe per se, but I think he just also really enjoys the engineering stuff, and there's a lot of uncertainty with this career, and it's very intimidating, and I have to try to not remind myself of that. I try to just stay so focused on what I'm doing and the plan A, so I don't think about a plan B.
Yeah, well,
which
the
is not
plan
going to
B.
happen.
I mean, you have a theater background. Your plan B is
there's no
is
plan B.
more arts.
Yeah, exactly.
Something in the arts.
Yeah. And and stand up is Bobby Lee was telling me this. He's like, man, even if the other stuff doesn't really take off, or you don't, some people just don't. He knows a lot of talented guys that just never got their shot, and you like to always, you can't think about that happening, but that is why stand up is so great. And he's like, you always have stand up. Like you just, obviously you need the other stuff to keep you going so that you can continue to travel and be somebody that clubs want to book. But that's why it's kind of been. It's imperative for me on this first round of touring since the movie to really make a good impact on these clubs. So, you want to be, and same thing like in acting, that's why I try to just really chum it up with the staff and everybody at every club I go to, and not be a piece of shit and make do well in the shows, and I feel like that's a good
get
combination.
Invited back.
Yeah.
Now you said you're funny as a kid. You were also a chubby kid, right?
Yeah. Chubby, I'd say fat for like 2 years, or I'd say chubby and then fat.
What was your apex? What year? How old were you?
I was, I'd say, my folks got divorced when I was 9, and I'd say from like 9, like when I almost turned 10, I was probably at the peak of my 10 to 11 was when I was at my biggest. So
that screwed you up, obviously.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, because I was never. I mean, I was always a big kid, like big boned. For sure, and like I was the tallest kid, and up until about 6th grade, I played center in basketball and all that, and then and then you grew a little bit more, and then that was it. But I think I liked food, and it was just like shit. Like stop making Pop-Tarts so delicious. Like was kind of my defense. If you don't want me to eat 5 in one sitting, but yeah, I'm sure subconsciously it was like a being bummed out, but I was too unaware to really know the divorce, like the impact of it, and knowing like I was like, oh, I still get to see my dad, right? So then why, like, this isn't too big of a deal. And then once you meet the new family and all that stuff, and that but I always put on a smile. And my sister was one who was a couple years older than me, and she was a little more aware of the situation, and I was just kind of like, yeah, it's everybody. So as a result, I think I was tried to be cool with everything, Mm-hmm. So it was just like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh yeah, you got a new wife, Dad. That's fine. Yeah, why wouldn't? Mom's, she's you just try to
gobble.
Yeah, for sure. Just suppress it. I'm sure someday in my 50s I'll just walk into a Target and fucking lose my mind or something.
But so you say you got fat.
Yeah.
And that. So were you funny before that, or was that a defense mechanism?
I think I was pretty silly before that, and then I actually figured this out, I think about a year ago, that I started making people laugh actively because I was known as the fat kid for a stretch of time, and it was a bummer. And it was just even like your friends teasing you and whatnot, and not being included in the cool kid stuff, or I was on basketball teams and Cub Scouts with kids that were skinny and athletic and whatever, that were getting to go to the cool, fucking the cool 6th grade party or whatever it was. Some the cute chick had people over for her birthday, and you didn't get invited. And then 6th grade, I was on a field trip with a couple of those kids. My buddy who I was telling you, my best friend who makes me laugh a lot. And we were on some field trip, and I just made them all like laugh the whole time. And so I think after that, they were like, oh, he's the funny kid, not the fat kid. And I think the more that happened, it was like, that Adam's the funny kid, not the. And so the teasing and stuff was kind of went away because of that. Because people wanted to be around me, and they wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah. And then I got to 7th grade and had my bar mitzvah, and my mom was like, you can't wear sweatpants on the bima and read from the Torah. And so she's like, you have to wear a suit. And so I was like, all right, I should probably stop eating
how long?
Kit Kat bars and burritos.
Over what length of time? 6 months?
No, I'd say I lost. I mean,
Or a
I
year?
was always so active. I just stopped eating crap. Eating is like.
And you
such a
probably
big-
grew into your weight, too.
Yeah, I think so. I probably grew a couple more inches, and from 6th grade to 7th grade, and then I must have lost 30 pounds in like 2 months. I mean, it was pretty. And by the way, when a fat kid goes on a diet, like that shit spreads like wildfire. Like all my 6th grade teachers were like, at the end of the year parties, they'd have all these treats, and they were like, "What?" They were used to me just
Munching.
downing just trucks of M&Ms, and they were they'd be like, "Oh, they see me eating vegetables," and they were like, "Ray, what's up? You don't want any pizza?" I was like, "No." I remember one of my
Wow.
teachers just being like, "What are you on a diet?" And I was like, "What the fuck? Like, why would you in front of all these parents?" And I was so self-conscious about it that I was like, no, I'm just not really feeling pizza today. Try to like make a joke out of it, and yeah,
That's a lot of willpower there.
that was tough. But I think I just wanted to. I was tired of. There was one day I remember just came home, and one of my buddies who I thought I was really good friends with, and he kind of made a crack at me, and like that really that was like the last straw, and I came home just sobbing, and my mom was like, she never gave me shit about it because her folks, my grandparents, had given her a lot of crap about weight, so she never wanted to really get into that with me, and she's like, just if you're happy, you're happy. But when she saw how bummed out I was, she was like, all right, let's I'll start cooking good stuff. And I basically just ate pasta and salad for like those 2 months, and because I was an active kid, I just stopped eating crap, and the weight just drops off, and people were looking at you all different, and there was the parents being like, "Man, like good for you, you look so good." Like I remember and then they felt even more comfortable then to tell me how like
What they
I
really
remember
thought of you.
I remember when you would come over and just raid our cabinets, you fat fuck, and just we had to. I remember we had to get I had 2 boxes of Ritz crackers that were gone in a weekend because of you, and thank God. So it's good to see. Hopefully, I can actually enjoy my own food now.
It's amazing because you're going out for romantic leads.
Yeah.
And do you still sort of self-identify? Because we all sort of remember what we were like.
Oh,
as
sure.
kids. Like,
Yeah.
Are you the fat kid inside your head?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You never lose it. Well,
Really?
I mean,
Even though it was relatively short period of time.
yeah, like 2 years, but that's a long 2 years. I don't know. I don't think I know that I'm not the. You always are. I think definitely like I'm always wanting to be more in shape than I am, probably because of all that stuff. But I don't. I don't have a problem with food. I think as I maybe did when I was a kid, because as you get older, you just get more control of your choices, and I don't let that stuff that probably drove me to eat as a kid doesn't do that for me now. But you have other vices too. Should
You do?
Smoke a little pot.
Right.
Yeah, pot and drink. But I mean, I'm not even a big drinker, so it's like
That adds on the pounds.
the drinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, that, and I mean the weed does too. I mean, if you got the munchies uncontrollably, which shit in college that was dangerous, man. There was definitely my first few years of college. I was so actively working out that I was probably in the best shape of my life then, because I was so trying not to come back home with like putting on weight like people did. So I was just in crazy shape, and then junior year, I think the pot settled in a little too much, and it was just it was just tasting food while you were high was a whole new world, to quote the Aladdin song. But
Hey, I want to learn a bit about last night.
yeah,
Your podcast.
The podcast,
What
yeah.
is the format of that? And how does Brad feel about being described as a dwurf comic?
oh, he's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, I say he's
He's a pretty good comic.
he's a killer comic.
Yeah.
And I just when I guess maybe I got used to a lot of people being like, oh, isn't that's the dwarf comic? So I think maybe now it's like in my head, when I preface it and say it's now in my head to present him like that. But yeah, he's just
He
also sometimes it is what he is, and it's when there are times when I'll say his name and people don't know. And then I'll say, same way with, there are so many comics, especially at somebody who's working at a club who doesn't know if you're not a huge name. Brad's definitely got a nice following, and he's climbing the charts. But like there'll be a time if I'll say, oh, and this guy, Brad Williams, and then I'll go, oh, the dwarf comedian, and then they'll immediately know. So it's like,
I had never seen this before, but at this club, he finished his set and got a standing ovation.
oh yeah.
and then out at the other club in New West, he got called back for an encore.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
he's a powerhouse.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, he's got a lot of energy in that little body.
So what's the format of the podcast?
So we it started out just him and I, and then now we've had quite a few guests, and our the magnitude of our guests is definitely growing. And we had Joey McIntyre from New Kids on the Block, who's also in the Heat with us, and Dane Cook and Whitney Cummings, and my buddy Chris D'Elia and Bobby Lee, and Adam Devine from Workaholics, and Bud Friedman, who founded all the improvs.
Oh, wow.
And Paul Feig, as I said, and we just had Steve-O from Jackass. That episode comes out on Monday, and so we're really getting some pretty cool people.
So the three of you sit around and you just talk.
It's very
about
casual.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we always have a map of questions and things we want to kind of like drive the episode in, but we're very open with Brad and I. Have gotten our rapport has gotten pretty strong. We have a really decent give and take between us, and we can share the conversation well as far as like who's going to kind of bring up the next topic, whatever. But it's very loose. I mean, we just
you're not stepping all over each
other.
other.
And whoever our guest is does a great job always. And I think and Harlan was just on a couple weeks ago, and people just fit in well with our style because first of all, it's very comfortable. We're not like trying to get too deep or Dr. Phil or Howard Sterney on people and get too personal, but we make it comfortable, and we'll ask questions. And if they want to go down that road, they will. And like Dane, candidly talked about the time with his, folks passing in the same year and his brother stealing money, and we didn't harp too much on it, but we were having such a good time, and it was all real loose, and we had a lot of funny, and we try to always pepper in, jokes. We don't want stuff to get too serious, but like Dane would openly talk about that, and it was really interesting, and we all could feel, if it was going a little bit too long, then somebody would make a joke, and we get back on, we change topics, go to something else, but it's. Everyone who does it says they have a great time.
He's coming back. I've been reading. He took a break from stand-up.
Yeah, he took a break because of all that stuff he went through, and he needed to collect himself and figure out what he wanted to do and how he wanted to. Nobody can really. That's a lot to go through, as he really was explaining to us. I mean, his brother, who he thought was his best friend, was handling his money, and his folks passed. He was super close with his folks. They both died within 6 months of each other. And he's feeling alone, and then he finds out another person he trusts who was maybe very small family, and that person's stealing from him. It's like how do you feel like you can trust? To not feel like you can trust anybody, it seems like a pretty dark space to be in. And and then when you want to go to somebody like a family member, a mom or dad, and then they're not there. I mean, that's
Well, and I wonder now if there's a new whipping boy in comedy, because he was for a while.
Yeah,
the whipping boy.
Oh, sure.
And he must have felt that.
Oh yeah,
And now coming back is he's Dane Cook. He's been Dane Cook.
He's coming back. He just did a big theater tour. He's obviously still killing it. He's really funny. He was great on our podcast. I see him at Laugh Factory and Improv all the time. He's still great. You can't do it that long and have that much success and just not be great anymore. But he's definitely talking about different stuff and.
Well, he always got that rap of stealing material.
Yeah, there's so many. I don't know. There's so many funny people and there's so many common premises, and unless something is verbatim, I don't see how. And there's there is no comedy police, and I think you just have to try to operate with as much integrity as possible, and just the same way when you're doing crowd work, you got to trust yourself to be funny in the moment. I think you just got to trust that like people aren't. But I mean, I've seen open micers blatantly steal some of my material. Like verbatim. And
what do you do?
I didn't approach them. I just go, they'll figure it out, or somebody will say something to them. But it's like, what am I going to do?
That's the thing.
Like,
if it's
I got other stuff to worry about.
Or if they do correct it, but if they keep going after they've been told.
I mean, shit. It's you hear stories of guys who go to clubs, and there's actually a buddy of mine who was telling me a story of this guy in the Midwest who was doing his act verbatim in these clubs because he wasn't yet headlining, but he was middling a lot. And this guy saw him at a bunch of clubs, and he would go and tape his stuff, and then go out and perform it in places where he wasn't going up at. So I'm sure that stuff is happening. I mean, like in where people that just don't want to take the time to write their own stuff or want to be better than they are before they get their opportunities to do so. But you can't spend your time worrying about that. The same way that, I mean, shit. Sometimes when I was doing a play my junior year of high school, this kid just walked up on stage, this crazy kid from our school, and everybody thought he was going to shoot up the building because he had this crazy look in his eye, and he just walked out on stage, and he was like tweaked out on something. And
during
after that,
performance,
yeah. And after that show, like for a long time, I was paranoid about I was like, there's no reason why, and even when I started doing stand up, it creeped back in there where I was like, there's no reason why somebody couldn't just walk in here right now and just blow me off the stage. Not to put that out there that
you don't want to put that out there.
Yeah, but what? It's not, but that type of you just can't live your life. My point being, worrying about stuff like that you can't control, and that's easier said than done. But I'm sure there's somebody doing an Olive Garden bit. I really enjoy telling mine, but hey, but if I heard another one, I wouldn't get angry. You
That's right. There's a difference between the premise and the joke.
Yes, and that's why I think all you can do is control having a unique take on whatever it is you're talking about. And also, I try to pull from a lot of my own personal experiences, because that way you hope that people can't take them from you. But like all the stuff with my nieces and the stuff that makes me think about it, and the things that happen. And having to, kiss Barbie's boo-boo on her vagina, and that somebody could take that and put it as their own, but you just, you hope that you're doing it in a way that
it's pretty specific.
It's organic. And
I saw you on Craig Ferguson doing panel.
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
And have you ever done stand-up on his show?
No, but we're working that out now. I'm just trying to get the proper tape, because there's some things you can say and not say on late night on CBS, and even though when he has pretty much free reign to do what he wants, I think. But I think with the stand-up, they step in to get a little more particular about what you can do.
You had a great rapport with him.
Thanks.
Do you know him from before?
I'd met him once. He was trying to do a talk show with the Discovery Channel. They were trying to get in the comedy game and have a daily show, talk soup type show. And they were met with a bunch of comedians and really hit it off. And he said, let's go try to sell this next week to Discovery Channel. And I said, hell yeah, man. So we went there, and that was off of one meeting, and we're sitting in the lobby, and he's like, oh, well, the movie's going to be huge, and he knows Sandra really well, and he's like, that's great. And he's like, what shows are you going on to promote it? And I was like, well, I'm not selling the movie, man. My last name's not Bullock or McCarthy. I'm just, and he's like, well, you can come on my show. And I was like, shit, all right, I'm going to hold you to that. And so that was really, there's no reason for it to have happened other than him just being nice, and he thought we were... He dug me, and then we went in and tried to sell the show, and Discovery Channel ultimately wanted to go with more of a hosty Ryan Seacrest type, and I think the show has kind of been put on hold right now. But meeting him was great, and then and the couch thing, I was so, I was comfortable too. The podcasting helps, stand up, like I was saying before, helped me feeling the listening thing, and that's what they said, because we did a pre-interview 2 days before, and we came up with a bunch of stuff to talk about that would have been great. And then when he rips up his card, that really is him being like, yo, we just got to...
Why do they do the pre-interview with him? Because he rips it up with everybody.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah. And
it'd be the worst job, most thankless job in TV is writing questions for Craig Ferguson.
Totally. And, I people thought, the few of my friends who know that I met with him to do that show, they were like, oh, yeah, well, you guys were great because you knew him so well. And I was like, really, that one meeting for 15 minutes, and then we went to Discovery, and in that room, and then 10 minutes beforehand, I mean, it was a small amount of time, and then as soon as I was staying in the backstage, and before I walked out on the show, and he comes back, and he goes, I go, hey, what's up, man? He goes, don't fuck it up. Gave me a big smile, walked out, and then at the end of it, he grabbed me close, when I always say something to you after when you go on a commercial, and he pulled me in close, and he just said, you fucking nailed it, man, and then gave me a fist bump, and that was it.
Yeah, you did. You looked really comfortable out there.
Oh, thanks.
And you look like you do talk shows all the time, and that was your first?
Yeah, that was my first, yeah. Well, I'm glad it came across like that. It really, I was nervous when I walked out, and then, again, you just have to trust yourself and just not, you have to be somewhat cognizant of, I can't be filthy, and, not that I have a super blue, dirty mind, but, I can go that way, and you have to remind yourself you can't say certain things, or... So when I started talking about being in Denver and people offering me weed, and even when I made a joke about people asking if you wanted coke weed, when I was saying it, I was like, oh God, is that I didn't know if that was even something that would be okay to say,
right?
Which is why you have to do a little research and watch. I watched a ton of interviews to get a vibe of what was maybe appropriate, but and then he asked about that, and
So you realized, okay, we can go there.
Yeah, and he's great at
because he's leading you to places that you didn't know you were going to go because he ripped up the question.
Exactly, and he also is so great at making you comfortable and being on board with whatever. And hopefully that will that piece of tape will help. I almost actually got to be on Jimmy Kimmel a few weeks after because I know Kimmel's sister. Well, she's a really funny
I met
comic.
her,
yeah. And Jill Bryan's very funny comic, and she had sent the tape to Kimmel, and they had a fallout, and they were actually going to throw me on last minute, and then they got a bigger name to step in, which. But hopefully it'll help for down the line, you know.
And you talked about with Craig as well. I saw a clip you doing Kevin Nealon's show. One of my favorites.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah, he's so funny.
He does a weekly new material night at the Laugh Factory where you do about 10 minutes of new jokes, and then he interviews you. And he's the same way. And that stuff has that. I mean, of course, that's another beneficial contributor to the Ferguson thing for being comfortable is doing enough of those. You know, because that is great talk show prep, even though it's a lot more, looser, and there's more things you can say than on TV. But Nealon's great. I don't know why he doesn't have a show. He's great with people, and he does a good job of letting you get your voice in. But
you mean why he doesn't have a TV show?
Yeah, talk
or a
show.
Podcast?
I think Kevin Nealon should have a talk show. I mean, maybe he just doesn't. Maybe he's not trying to do that, but
he could do one like Norm Macdonald on YouTube.
Oh, he's great.
That was great.
That's my buddy Adam that he does it with.
Oh, so funny.
So
I
great.
defended Adam. People said this guy's horrible. I go, that's exactly what you need.
Oh no, but he's not. He's not. I mean, I would never say horrible, but he's a great straight man. He's a great straight man, and they have such good rapport. They know each other so well that Norm's there for the funny. Adam's funny too, but I think it's just a great dynamic they have.
He's a clueless.
But people are thinking that it should be two super funny guys. Like if Norm's bringing a guy on, it's like no, he's even funnier because Adam knows how to play. That Adam knows how to respond. The give and take between them when Norm will say something, and you got to have the guy who's putting up a little bit of a wall when Norm's doing stuff.
Are they bringing it back?
Bring what back?
His show. They stopped.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they only did like 10, and then they stopped all summer.
Oh man, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
I think he's going to do our podcast in a couple weeks, Adam, and maybe that'll be a nice segue to get Norm on there. But
I've had him on here.
Oh, really?
90 minutes. So you're trying to get out of here after an hour. He did 90.
How was that? Great, right?
The best.
Oh, man.
The best. And
how many episodes have you done of this?
Close to 400. But
holy shit! I'm gonna have to go back and listen to some of these.
Yeah.
Did you just make a face like, no, don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time.
It's not that great.
No, some are really great.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Norm is great.
Yeah.
But you talked about being a tour guide at Universal Studios. Up until when?
Up until I did. I started working there when I was a sophomore in college in the summers, and then once I graduated, I needed a full-time job. I didn't want to wait tables, and I wasn't making any money from the career yet. So Universal was really fun because the tour guide job was 4 or 5 hour-long shows a day. You had to learn all this material. I had to learn all these movie facts, binders of material, of stall material, because in the summer times the trams get backed up. You have to have, wherever you are, you have to be able to pull tons of knowledge to keep people entertained. And then they installed these TVs and DVD clips so you could play bloopers and whatever. And again, I would make up my own weird shit that my bosses would always give me crap for. I'd do shitty magic shows, or I'd actually do stand-up, and they were
giving you legitimate crap for, or
no, they were like,
they
you can't. They're like,
good.
use the clips of the material. Like, why are you doing stand-up? And I'm like, well, there are 200 people on this tram, and half of them don't speak English, so maybe you make a good point. And and then but that was just a lot of fun. And Universal, you're at a theme park. You're part of people's vacations. Everyone there is in a great mood. Obviously, towards the end of the day, you see people, families fighting, and I didn't know Diet Cokes were $60, or where's Chrissy? She's always holding the line up, and all sorts of bullshit. And but then I wanted to stay working there, and that's why I started working as Wolverine. Did that for about 3 years, and then
kind of like acting.
Yeah, I mean, you're more eye candy for heavyset Latino women and adolescent males. But it was.
But, I mean, whenever you see these people, whether it's Disneyland or Universal or these theme parks, you go, well, they must want to break into show business.
Oh yeah.
How many do?
Exactly. Yeah. How many? They're all. I mean, everyone who was working there was still trying to make it in the business in some regards. I mean, the guys who were got the guy who was Spider-Man, I think, went on to be like a Broadway dancer. And there's one girl who was singing in a show, and she made it big on Broadway. And but yeah, it's. I mean, everyone there is trying to be in the business. A lot of writers, a lot of stunt guys, and then I hosted the Fear Factor live show for a little bit. And the most fun job I had there was playing a New York cop, because I wasn't from anything. And so when you're Wolverine, just not a lot you can really say. You got to know Marvel facts, which I didn't, which I talked about in Ferguson. Like, kids would ask me all these questions. They gave me books and DVDs, but I mean, I'd even do like
Too much work.
My voice at one point, where I used to do this joke about it, where I'd be like, hey kids, you having a good time? Yeah, you like you meet Spider-Man yet? You been riding the movies? You having a good day, at Universal? And then I'd say the kids would walk and be like, hey mom, why did Wolverine sound like Tony Danza? We should go get our money back. Yeah, the cop wasn't from anything because it was in the section of New York Street that they tried to say the park. They had people up in these windows screaming out at you, being like, "Welcome to New York Street," hey, say hi to Jimmy for me, and having some banter with the people. And then they have this cop walk around, which was more or less supposed to tell you where bathrooms were and stuff like that. But you had a whistle, and I'd do stupid bits like blow my whistle at an old woman walking slow and tell her to slow down, and really cheesy shit like that. But the muscle, the improv muscle that you got to flex, because some of the guys there would just tell you where the bathrooms were, and they'd have a couple jokes they would say 90 times a day to people, like, "Hey kid, get a haircut," and blow his whistle at a kid with long hair. So stupid, and ran its course. And so I would really try to
change it up.
Just really, and I'd stop and I'd talk to people, and I'd where they from, blah blah blah, and boy, some of the moments I had with some of these people were like, I have people just dying of laughter. Like, I can't remember some of the stuff I would do, but we were just, just off of what they were doing, or it was like crowd work. It was literally like they'd come through, I'd stop them, for some sort of reason. I'd come up with something, I'd give some kid some shit, or I'd talk to a guy about whatever, or, maybe his mustache has got to, it's got to be, shorter regulation stash size, or what, like some sort of beginning bit to talk to them. And then they'd start asking me where stuff was, and I'd tell them about rides or make up facts or... But it was really a lot of fun. There was a lot more freedom to that job because I wasn't from anything. It was I'd tell kids I was like cop number 2, and when Harry met Sally, and my lines got cut. And
well, if the voiceover work, the stand up, the acting doesn't work, you can always go back to that. You always have that, Adam.
Oh man, you know what? I joke about that, and if that actually does happen, you probably won't hear from me for a while. That'll be really depressing. I hope not, because when I got fired eventually because I picked up so much road work. I had to call in sick, and they do it by a point system. And so then finally I got 15 points, and I was fired. And they took my ID and walked me down from the office, and it was like really they made it into a big deal. They had security walk me out, and I was like, yeah. It was really, they love you when you're there, and then just kick you to the curb. I mean, I've got nothing but positive experiences, except for a couple bosses who will remain nameless. But if I get to a point, I will definitely. If I win an Oscar, I will not thank them, but I will not thank them and I'll mention their name and say, no
thanks to you.
Yeah, no, yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Adam. Well, good luck.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks for doing this. There you go. Adam Ray. My talk with him from a couple weeks ago when he headlined the Comedy Mix down on Burrard Street. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Thanks to Adam for agreeing to take part of his afternoon, and it's only his second time in Vancouver, to talk to me. Next week we got another Los Angeles-based comedian on the show, Ian Harris. Ian was here last week, I'm guessing, at Yuck Yucks. Played a special show on a Sunday night, his Critical and Thinking tour. So tune in next Sunday night at 11 for my talk with Ian Harris. Thanks for listening.